let's talk about, let's call them Rotoworld Reminders.
Yeah, sure.
Some macro principles that people should keep in mind as they draft. And we're mostly approaching this from a redraft league, a snake format, not so much from an auction format, but nonetheless, just general principles people should keep in mind.
Fantasy football is all about, they take nothing else away from this show. Take this. Fantasy football is all about putting yourself in the best position to win on a weekly basis. That's it. Minimizing odds and putting yourself in the best position to win. That's it. Like it is a fluky game. Weird stuff's going to happen. So all you can do is minimize odds and put yourself in the best position to win on a weekly basis. We hear everyone talk about these season-long stats.
Right.
But your goal in fantasy football and season-long fantasy football is to beat one team in 1 week that's ahead of you, that you're playing that week, right? And so ultimately, like the Cooper Kupps of the world, the Jonathan Taylors of the world, that's great, guys that dominate week in, week out.
Yeah.
But that's not likely the case, okay? Like, think about last year, okay? Last year, weeks 9 through 12, Devontae Freeman, Mark Ingram, and Darrell Williams were all top 16 fantasy running backs last year.
Yeah.
For a month.
Yeah.
At this time last year, again, Devontae Freeman was sitting on his couch.
Yeah.
And Darrell Williams was like a not even thought of Kansas City Chief backup. The fact is that throughout the year, there will be weeks where you have to build your roster, and you'll use the waiver wire, you'll make trades, players go up, players go down. Think about Amon-Ra St. Brown over the final 6 weeks of the season.
Yeah.
So that's my point, is understand as you go into your draft, this is a weekly game. And you do not need to come out of your draft with a roster that you're going to start every single week, because that's impossible.
Right.
What you need is a foundation and a blueprint of building blocks that you can add to throughout the season, off of the waiver wire, off of trades, as players emerge.
So what you're saying is the work is just beginning, but it doesn't end here. Yes, you are tuned in to the Rotoworld Fantasy Football Draft Guide Show. And yes, you will be watching us on Sunday mornings, fantasy football pregame, but you also want to watch this man weekdays, fantasy football happy hour. You got to manage this roster. This draft this team you're about to draft, you got to manage it as the year goes on. All right, so that's rule number one, a reminder number one.
Happy hour, tailgate. Are you sensing a theme yet? Are you sensing a theme?
Bar?
You see the bar?
Here we are. You know,
listen, it's fantasy. Let's have some fun. We're pre-gaming here.
All right.
Absolutely.
Rule number two that you wanted to touch on is don't overreact to rookies, which is really hard. There's so much hype this time of year coming out of training camp.
Yeah, I think Jamar Chase, awesome, right? Justin Jefferson the year before that, amazing rookie seasons, historic even. But that's the problem is that I think there's too much hype on rookies. Now, there's a lot of rookies that I think are interesting this year, the Drake Londons, the George Pickens of the world, 100%, right? Chris Olave, right? We'll talk about them as we get into the show. But there's not shooting for a Jamar Chase or a Justin Jefferson just isn't realistic. For every guy like that, right, there's guys like Devontae Smith, right, or Rashad Bateman, or Terrace Marshall, or Elijah Moore. Remember all the hype Elijah Moore was getting last preseason?
Yeah.
Like they all showed flashes last year at certain. Well, maybe not Marshall, but the rest of them did, right? But
this game's hard,
right? Kadarius Toney had one or two good weeks, but generally speaking, do not overreact to rookie wide receivers. I will say, however, I do think it's worth drafting them, and then it takes a while for rookies to get it. So if you do end up with a rookie, patience. Again, think about the last 6 games of Amon-Ra St. Brown, right? Amon-Ra St. Brown last year over the final 6 games was a top 3 fantasy wide receiver. Think about Jalen Waddle down the stretch. They were both great. So if you do draft a rookie, patience, because it takes them a while to get used to the NFL, and realize that the Jamar Chases and Justin Jeffersons of the world is much more the exception than the rule.
Absolutely. And patience is not one of my virtues. As you know,
I know.
Facing me in fantasy,
oh my God.
I blow up my team.
You have no idea.
Like 1 weekend. I'm the most impatient man.
I've been in many leagues with Michael Smith over the years. It's all I can say to America. Find somebody that looks at you the way Michael Smith looks at the waiver wire.
And trades.
Right, I mean, in trades.
Trades.
Like always, constantly working the phones.
Right. Reminder number 3 is pay close attention to QB upgrades.
Yeah, I think the best example, of course, is that Cooper Kupp. Think about, obviously, a historic record-setting season for Cooper Kupp, who went from Jared Goff to Matthew Stafford. Massive upgrade. So what wide receivers this year, and we're going to get into it further on later in the show, but you just think about some wide receivers this year that are getting a quarterback upgrade, including Cooper Kupp's new teammate, Allen Robinson, who goes from, the mess that was Chicago last year to Matthew Stafford. DJ Moore now with Baker Mayfield in Carolina. That's an upgrade over what he had last year. Terry McLaurin's going to play with the best quarterback he's ever played with in his career. Deontay Johnson, I argue that what they have in Pittsburgh is an upgrade over Big Ben from last year. Marquise Brown, Lamar's great.
Yeah.
I think Kyler's a little bit better, right? And they have more of a connection. Michael Pittman, I think Ryan's slightly an upgrade over Carson Wentz. The Denver guys, massive upgrade getting Russell Wilson for Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton. Julio Jones goes from Ryan Tannehill to Tom Brady. So I think don't underestimate the importance of being with a good quarterback or a good offense. We want to target players, obviously, on good offenses, good coaching, everything like that. And we're going to get into all this throughout the next however long we're going to be here.
Hey, just quick follow-up to that. Do you also use that philosophy when it comes to running backs or even defenses? Just like the rising tide floats all boats, I guess you could say, but just what a difference a quarterback makes throughout an organization. So do you look at running backs that get quarterbacks and say, okay, they can throw the ball better, which takes pressure and fewer people in the box, or on defense, maybe they're playing with a lead, that sort of thing.
1,000%, all of that. I mean, again, look at Leonard Fournette in Tampa Bay with Tom Brady. Look at Leonard Fournette in Jacksonville. I mean, right? I mean, like, when you have a good quarterback, you are in scoring position more often. Often. As you said, defenses now suddenly have to pay attention to everything. They can't just stack the box, like if you've got a bad quarterback. And so a good quarterback, yes. Rising tide floats all boats, 100% there.
All right. Reminder number 4. This is especially important. This maybe should have been number 1. Shout out to Biggie Smalls. This rule should have been number 1. Don't overreact to preseason, because that's where we're at right now. Recency bias comes into play with these drafts. You're drafting this time of year. You're watching training camp. You're watching preseasons. It's really hard not to overreact to what we're seeing in the here and now.
It is, but I think Jamar Chase, speaking of him, is just a great lesson. Last year, he had a couple of bad drops. They're like, oh, this guy can't catch. And people were dropping him.
The ball is different.
Right, exactly. Like, he's been out of football for a year. Like, that's what happened, right? I mean, so, think about the, preseason superstars, the Darwin Thompsons. Remember Darwin? Like, everyone's all about Isaiah Pacheco right now in Kansas City, and he's having a great camp, and understandably, there's some buzz there. But, like, a couple years ago, everyone was talking about Darwin Thompson. Now, Pacheco and Thompson are very differently built running backs, and I have more confidence in Pacheco than I did in Thompson back then. But still, the point is that there absolutely are nuggets that you can glean from the preseason, things that are important in terms of usage and what players are being in certain personnel groups. But you don't want to overreact, okay? It's week 1. Like, Antonio Gibson is not suddenly going to the bench. People are all very worried now about Antonio Gibson because he played in the third quarter. He had a bad fumble, right? And Brian Robinson got the goal line carry and converted the touchdown. Antonio Gibson's going to be fine, okay? I'm telling you, I believe he'll be fine. Treylon Burks, everyone's ready to throw fantasy dirt on the grave of Treylon Burks' fantasy value, and it's like it's 1 week. Like they're going to need pass catchers. So my point is like that preseason can be helpful. Tune in to the show every single day on Peacock and the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. We'll be doing the podcast. We'll be talking and sifting through this throughout the season, starting August 22nd. But people have a tendency to overreact. It's just preseason.
And finally, this is a buzzword you hear in actual drafts. It's applicable to fantasy draft. Upside.
Yeah, look, first couple rounds, we always say you can't lose your draft you can't win your draft in the first 2 rounds. You can lose it. So when you're early on, you want to go safe, but otherwise, you want to go upside, right? Talladega Nights, it's Ricky Bobby, right? We say if you ain't first, you last, right? That's the thing. Like, no one remembers second. Right. No one remembers third. So flags fly forever. So I think you want to swing for the fences. And so for me, I spend a lot of time on my rankings.
Yeah.
And even when I'm in a draft, I use them as a loose guideline. Every draft is different. Every situation is different. How players come into your team and what other teams are doing in the draft or in a salary cap format, you need to react on the fly. And the minute the games start playing, those rankings are out the window. You know what I mean? And so ultimately, I'm a big believer in sort of get the guys you want, use the rankings as a loose guideline, but ultimately it's your team.
Thank you.
Get the guys you want. Don't be beholden to the ranking.
I'm so
and
glad
this is a guy who does rankings for a
that's your
living.
job. Yeah, no, I'm
Right,
so glad
and I'm
you said
telling you that.
And I was going to add that.
Get your guys.
Get the guys you want to watch. It's supposed to be fun.
This is fun.
Like, get the players you want to tune in on Sundays and, like, hey, I like this team. I want to be a part. I want a piece of the Buffalo offense or a piece of the Kansas City offense. Just get the guys that are going to be fun to watch that you want to root for, not the guys that the experts tell you are 2 spots higher than the other guy. I love that.
Right.
So
at this time last year, no one, and by no one, I mean not any fantasy analyst, not any fan, not anyone in the NFL knew Cordero Patterson had a top 12 fantasy running back season in him.
Yeah.
Like, he was on his 8th team, right?
Yeah.
And the Falcons, by the way, they went into the season thinking Mike Davis was going to be their guy.
Yeah.
But Cordero Patterson, you never
fun.
know. Get your guys, use the rankings as a loose guideline, have some fun very quickly.
Swing for the fences,
I do think insurance is important. We're in an era of COVID. You remember last year, week 15, Austin Eckler, Travis Kelce, a lot of big names were out. So I think it's important to have insurance. And I also think that, look, again, you want, as we talk about it being a weekly game, the Alexander Madisons, the Tony Pollards of the world, like, the important part is knowing if one of your guys goes down, who to start. And so the upside of those players, the Madisons, the Pollards of the world, the Isaiah Spiller of the Chargers, guys like that, I think are important to have, especially given the nuttiness of the world we live in.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.